Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and learned delegates present in this international conference, the august audience. I wanted to be in Copenhagen for delivering this keynote address before you, but due to some prior commitments, I could not do so. I express my deep regret for it. India, as you know, is an agricultural country, and we proceeded for green revolution long back. But with the explosion of population and more requirement of staple food, Indian farmers and Indian economy is working very hard to come out of it. Mentioning that in India there was a time when our entire population was starving and we were having very less amount of food stuff. Ultimately, we were depending on the PL 480 grant coming from USA. This grant was virtually composed of the wheat, which was full of pesticides and herbicides and having almost negligible nutrient into it. This staple food was being dumped into sea, and in order to feed our population, we had to request the dumping agencies not to dump it into the sea, but to give it to India as PL 480 grant. That wheat was distributed through the public distribution system, and majority of people, they faced lot of physical problem and medical problems. This was a time when India was headed by Mr. Lal Bahadur Shastri as Prime Minister. He was a very sensible Prime Minister of this country and was much concerned about our national security and the starvation which the people of India were facing. So he gave a slogan of Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan. In continuation to that, he asked Dr. M.S. Swaminathan, an agriculturist who was working in Indian Agriculture Research Institute in New Delhi, to look into the matter and see that how the country can be self-sustainable in the production of wheat and rice. And simultaneously, due to better growth, our farmers also prosper. During that time, Professor M.S. Swaminathan was in contact with Norman E. Borlaug. He used to travel India quite frequently, and in 1963, on the invitation of Dr. M.S. Swaminathan, Professor Norman E. Borlaug visited Indian Agriculture Research Institute and discussed the potential of agriculture in India. Through the effort of Swaminathan, Borlaug and other visionary scientists and policymakers, seeds of new wheat reached Indian farmers in 1966. India in 1963 was harvesting around 10 million tons and was importing approximately 5 to 8 million tons of staple food during the early to mid-60s. By 1968, wheat output rose to 16.5 million tons, and by 1960, it had doubled from its 1963 level to 20 million tons. And India became self-sufficient in wheat production. Now the farmers, they used to grow their staple food and other food crops and were named as or were called as the prosperous farmers. But with the natural atrocities like drought and flood brought the line of anxiety on the forehead of farmers, and the farmers, they faced a lot of problems with agricultural fields and with the natural disaster. Then again, Dr. M. S. Swaminathan was called upon as the chairperson of National Commission on Farmers, which was abbreviated as NCF. It was constituted in November 18, 2004. The NCF worked hard on it and submitted 4 reports in December 2004, then August 2005, in December 2005, and finally in April 2006. The 5th and final report came in October 2006. This report was basically based on the improvement of farmers' life and the agriculture as a whole by using holistic approach of agriculture and biotechnological tools. The report contained suggestions to achieve the goal of faster and more inclusive growth during 11th 5-year plan. The key findings and recommendation of NCF were cause for farmers' distress. I need to explain these things because the Indian farmers, they were accustomed of growing the crops as per their tradition. Most of the farmers were not capable of taking the risk of growing other alternative crops for better earning. That was the main cause of farmers' distress, apart from the loans which were given to them by banks, and due to bad weather conditions or due to bad crop production, they were not able to refund the bank loans. So most of the farmers, they came under distress, and that was the main reason why the farmers' income was not being improved. Irrigation was another finding of NCF. Though India is having enough water resources as natural resources, we have produced dams where water can be stored for irrigation. We have developed rivers. We are keeping their status maintained. We are having water ponds through which irrigation can be done. But the progressive urbanization and industrialization is causing great loss to our groundwater, and this groundwater is getting polluted. It is a fact that we cannot stop the growth of our country by stopping the industrial development, by stopping the urbanization of population, but simultaneously we are focusing more on the maintenance of water level in the soil and the quality of water in rivers and in other water catchhold areas. Now, these water resources are being used for irrigation, and the government, through this finding, has been suggested to provide proper water for irrigation to the farmers so that they can grow their crops fairly well. With the explosion of population, it is also a fact that water resources are deteriorating. So the farmers need to be educated that how the minimum water can be used for crop production, and for that different measures need to be suggested, like drip irrigation, like other means of irrigation through which less water can be consumed and it, instead of wasting, it reaches directly to the crop plant. Another point was productivity of agriculture. For agriculture, there are several methods like the protection of crop from pests and different type of insects. For that, the Indian farmers, they are in practice of using large number of pesticides, large amount of pesticides, herbicides, weedicides, and chemical fertilizers. These things are, of course, increasing productivity in agriculture, but at the same time, the use of these products is also deteriorating the soil health. The soil health is a major concern in India, and the focus is more on the reduced application of pesticides, herbicides, weedicides, and chemical fertilizer. Alternative methods like biofertilizer, rhizobacteria, PGPR, these are the means which have been suggested through this recommendation of NCF that should be used by the farmers so that without losing the fertility of soil, they can get better production in agriculture. Another point raised by NCF was the credit and insurance. As I already mentioned, that the banks, they have been giving credit, and the crop insurance was a major concern. Because of the natural disasters, sometimes the farmer, they lose their crop, and if the crop is uninsured, they do not get the compensation out of the natural disaster. Now the credit through bank is being given to farmers at a very subsidized rates. They are being given the support by the government, and they have been asked to insure their crops through the national agencies. Then food security was another issue, and India had been producing large amount of food, but the government is focusing more on the security of food by virtue of reducing the wastage. Large amount of food get waste because of less storage facilities available. So NCF also recommended that more and more storage facilities be developed so that either the farmers, they sell out their products immediately or within the stipulated time, or they should have enough facilities developed by the government to store the food for its marketing in the time to come. Another very important issue raised by NCF was prevention of farmer suicide. There are certain places where, due to extreme stress, farmers were committing suicide, and in order to prevent farmer suicide, government need to come forward to subsidize their loans, to provide them better facilities, and to ensure that their future lies in agriculture. The farmers' suicide is a major concern in some parts of the country, like in Maharashtra. The farmers, they had been growing crops and they take loan for growing crops, and if the crop is not up to the mark and they are not getting the actual price of the crop they need, then they come under deep stress and they are left with no other option except suicide. It is a painful situation in some parts of the country which the government is addressing very effectively. Now, competitiveness of farmers was also suggested. The farmers, they need to grow variety of crops rather than focusing on one traditional crop. Like in western part of Uttar Pradesh, most of the farmers, they had been growing sugarcane, and sugarcane is known here as a cash crop because it is grown once and it is sold to the sugar mills and they get money out of that. But in place of sugar, the farmers need to grow some other crops which they are not focusing in many parts of the country. If some farmers are growing rice, then they will focus on rice and their entire generation will go for rice production. If they are growing wheat, then they will focus only on wheat and on no other crop. That's why it becomes a problem. Sometimes the market is overflooded by these crops and they do not get proper market for it. So NCF, they also suggested that there should be a competitiveness of farmers and they should be under competition for growing better and better crops by using best varieties available with the research institution. Then employment. Employment is another issue which the farmers are facing. Their next generation, the new generation, they do not enter into agriculture, they do not want to enter into farming. Rather, they are going for employment and they are shifting over to urban areas where they get a white collar job or they are in search of a white collar job. So, this employment to the farmers' children is also a very great concern. They must get educated and should apply their education in the fields to get better agriculture and better production. Bioresources include water, soil, air, and other resources. These resources, with the population explosion, like other countries, is also are also receding in India, and these bioresources, their rejuvenation or their restorage is very much required. So all the bioresources which are required for better agriculture need to be addressed, and only then, if the farmers will get better soil conditions, better agriculture tools, better fertilizers, better biofertilizers, and better environmental conditions, they will be able to grow a better agriculture. Now the question comes that how can biotech help Indian agriculture? Biotechnology is known as the frontier science, and through biotechnological tools we can address various issues like we can improve food and nutritional security. The food improvement through biotechnology is a very important point where the foods, they can be prevented by modifying, by altering their genetic structure so that these foodstuffs, they cannot be attacked by insects, pests, and the damage should be minimum. The nutrition of food material is very important as far as human health is concerned, animal health is concerned. So the nutrition and the level of nutrient present in a crop, they can be improved by making various genetic changes. So biotech, it can help in improving the nutritional security as well. The increase of crop productivity, the crops are being developed against salt stress, water stress, heat tolerance, pest tolerance or pest resistance, and for so many other type of stresses which a crop plant faces. So the scientists, the biotechnologists all over the globe, they had been working on the improvement of crops by developing resistance in them against different types of stress. In India, particularly at various institutes, the researches they are going on in order to develop these type of crops. The production efficiency per plant is also important by the combination of genetics and plant breeding departments and agriculture biotechnology. The efficiency of per plant crop production is also very important issue, and it is also being taken care of at various centers financed by Indian Council of Agriculture Research, Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, Department of Biotechnology, and Department of Science and Technology. Now, the reduction of crop damages and food loss is important because out of the total crop production and out of the total food production, almost 40% of crops and food, they face damage either due to lack of storage capacity or due to basic ignorance or due to the poor quality of crop and food and the other type of losses caused by animals, birds and human beings as such. So that need to be reduced by applying certain plants which can be grown in the surroundings so that the crop damage can be reduced to maximum. Sustainable agriculture is an issue throughout the world. Whatever agriculture we grow, either by using the improved seeds or by using biotechnological tools, the crop which we are growing or which our farmers are growing, that should keep on progressing and there should be a sustainable agriculture. And this type of agriculture should sustain the climatic changes, the environmental stress, the soil health and other type of natural disasters. So the focus of our agriculture ministry is more on sustainable agriculture. The impact of environment is a known fact. As far as India is concerned, we are having different seasons. That way we are fortunate that we are having different type of weather conditions on the basis of which we can grow up different types of crops like Kharif crop, Jair crop, Rabi crop. So all these crops, they can be grown as per the seasonal conditions and environment. But it is a global issue that the climatic change and the environmental conditions in our country are also deteriorating because of heavy environmental pollution, because of more automobiles on the road, because of use of pesticides and herbicides, rather excessive use of these chemicals, the use of chemical fertilizers and mass, the environmental pollution, air pollution and other types of pollution which are directly or indirectly affecting our agriculture. So the environmental impact is also being addressed by the government and measures are being taken so that the less impact of environmental changes be on the crop, and biotechnologists, they are working in this direction. The empowerment of rural sector through income generation is also being taken care of by the biotechnologists, because many of the people, they leave their crops to waste, and there are so many natural resources, there are so many crop products and there are so many secondary crop production, secondary agriculture produce which the farmers are not using. So the biotechnologists, they are adopting certain villages where they are producing some crops, they are producing some algal plants, they are producing some other food crops, and they are not making optimum utilization of these crops. So they are being educated in order to utilize these natural resources, utilize these food and crop secondary produce, and the microorganism for generating their income. I can cite one example that in Rajasthan there are tribal women, and these tribal women, they are not permitted to work in the field, or they are not going for any job anywhere else. So the scientists, under a project of Department of Biotechnology, they motivated them to grow spirulina, which is a single cell protein. It is an alga which contain large amount of protein and omega-3 fatty acid. These women, they were grown the seeds of spirulina and the nutrient. They started growing it into a tumbler. They were drying it on a newspaper and were making a powder of it. That powder was purified by the industries, and they were getting their livelihood. Likewise, different other crops like stevia, which is an alternate to sugar-free tablets, is also being grown by poor farmer women in the rural sector, and they are growing, they are earning their livelihood out of that. The reduced economic inequity is also an issue in the society, because some people, they are taking advantage of inequity, because the farmers, they are producing their crops and they are selling it to the mediocres at a lower price, and these mediocres, in the form of a chain, they are sending it to the common people at a very high rate. So the farmer is not getting the dues for their crop, and ultimately they are facing different types of stress on their life. So it has been suggested that rather than by providing your crop product or agriculture produce to the mediocre people, they should make a cooperative, and through these cooperative, they should start selling their product directly to the consumers, so that this economic inequity can be addressed. Now the question is that the biotechnologists, they are focusing more on the development of genetically modified crops. In India, it is a burning issue that are GM crops the answer to Indian farming problems? Because genetically modified maize, genetically modified cotton, genetically modified brinjal are the big issues before Indian farmers. And they are a bit confused whether the GM crops, they can be helpful in improving their financial status and in improving their agriculture production or not. Now I must emphasize that no single solution is a cure for all or panacea, because we should not depend solely on biotechnological tools and solely on the production through biotechnological practices. But the alternative methods of agriculture, the improved methods of agriculture, the breeding methods of agriculture, and the biotechnological improvement tactics, all these things should come under consortium mode, and they should work together, so that the farmers, they may get better production of their food crops. However, the biotechnology, being a frontier science, can play a significant role, because it has the quicker improvement of crop, or you can say one tool in a toolbox. It is a tool, and it cannot be a toolbox, because we cannot solely depend on biotechnology. We have to address biotechnology in collaboration with pathology, in collaboration with the breeding practices, the genetics, the molecular breeding, and different other similar branches. So biotechnology can be used as a tool. It cannot be considered as a toolbox as a whole. Biotechnology can fight against world hunger by producing quality crops, by producing nutritious crops, by converting a sterile or ooser land into a fertile land, by developing the crops which can grow in a sterile region. They can develop better per capita production by the plants, and the staple crops particularly which are being used world over, they can be produced at large scale by using modern biotechnological techniques which can help in reducing world hunger. Biotechnology can also work well with other traditional approaches, as I just mentioned, that there are so many traditional practices which are being used by the farmers, and if these farmers they adopt the biotechnological tools along with their traditional practices, they can grow better crops. And Indian farmers, particularly in Haryana and Punjab, they have started practicing the advanced biotechnological techniques, and they are getting better results of these practices. So, before focusing more on biotechnology, we must weigh all options. That for particular crop, which option will be appropriate? For all crops, biotechnology cannot be a solution, and we have to find out that for different types of crop, which can be a better solution, and that solution can be supplemented by the biotechnological practices for its further improvement. Now, in India, there are different funding agencies like Department of Science and Technology, Department of Biotechnology, and Department of Environmental Sciences, which are providing sufficient funds for biotechnological researches. Now, these biotechnological researches are evaluated before funding, and after the outcome of these researches are released, a regulatory and implementation body set up by Government of India and Department of Biotechnology undertake the evaluation of these genetically modified organisms. We have a well-established regulatory body which are called as Recombinant DNA Advisory Committee or RDAC, which look into the issues that if a DNA has been modified, if a foreign DNA segment has been introduced, and this DNA has been developed as a recombinant DNA or rDNA, then whether this rDNA is safe, or it can cause any damage to the environment or to the human health or animal health as a whole. Then Institutional Biosafety Committee is also there, IBSC. It looks into the safety of animals, human beings, crops, and other biodiversity issues. Then Review Committee in General Manipulation, RCGM, is also there, which review whether this particular GMO has been developed in such a manner that it can be really useful to the masses or to the human beings and to the animals without disturbing our natural biodiversity. Genetic Engineering Approval Committee, GEAC, is a committee which look into the issues that if a plant or if a crop is subjected to genetic engineering or subject to genetic manipulation, whether this genetic manipulation is really needed, whether the genetic manipulation cannot be done by using routine techniques or by using routine practices, or we have to see that the genetic engineering is inevitable and should be applied if we want better crop production. So after evaluating all these issues, this GEAC approved the proposal, and only then the scientist is permitted to work on genetic engineering. In India, there are different states. It is a big country, and in different states there are different types of crops, different types of fauna and flora, and different types of food and animal requirement. So there are state biotechnology coordination committee, we have state biotechnology centers, or we have the state biotechnology divisions or departments. They, on the basis of the requirement of the state, on the basis of the environmental conditions, soil conditions, and the fundamental crop production in that state, these committees, they approve the projects. And say for example in Bengal, the rice production is quite predominantly seen. In western UP, the rice production is also seen predominantly. The sugarcane production is also seen in UP. In various other states, different types of staple food production, crop production, and food production is being grown. So the State Council of Biotechnology, they look into all these issues state-wise. Besides developing animals, lactating animals, veterinary products, food stuffs, or different types of livestock which are being developed by using biotechnological techniques. So at central level there is a State Biotechnology Coordination Committee, SBCC, which coordinate between different biotechnology centers state-wise, and they just correlate the researches which are required by the states for better development of crops and foods and veterinary products. Now the 7-point formula given by the Prime Minister was including increase productivity by focusing on irrigation with adequate resources. Now the government is focusing on the irrigation system, which need to be strengthened. As I mentioned earlier, that the water resources are receding and the water available for irrigation is also reducing. So in order to develop water catchment areas, in order to find water harvesting systems, in order to strengthen soil water conditions, and in order to recharge soil after alternate time, so that more and more water for irrigation can be made available to the farmers when they grow their crops season wise. And for that, Prime Minister Agriculture Irrigation Scheme has been launched, which will help the farmers and will help in providing enough water resources available for irrigation. Another point which was given in this 7-point formula is effective use of inputs through improved seeds, nutrient, plants, organic farming, soil health card. I need to elaborate these points. The improvement of seeds by using the plant breeding practices, by using crossbreeding technique, by using molecular breeding techniques, by using transgenic techniques, or by using different biotechnological tools like markers. The improved seeds need to be provided to the farmers so that they can get better yield of the crop. For that, different state agriculture universities and the central agriculture institutes, they are working very hard to develop improved seeds and to provide them to the farmers. The state agriculture universities, they are mandated to organize the farmers fair every 6 months, and they do it to educate the farmers about different technologies being developed in their universities. And the farmers, they are provided the improved seeds on very subsidized rates, so that the farmers, they take the seeds and grow them in their field to get better yield. So this is a countrywide scenario. All the state agriculture universities through Krishi Vigyan Kendra or the agriculture education system, we have got different nodal centers. Through these nodal centers, the farmers, they come to the scientists they get educated and they are told about the regional crops and their problems and how to come up with these problems, means how to develop disease resistant varieties and how to fight against different types of crop diseases. So the farmers are benefited and they are now in practice of using improved seeds. For nutrient, soil require rejuvenation after every alternate year. So the intercropping systems and the crops of integrated crop management systems, along with different types of added nutrients in the soil, they are being developed and the farmers are being educated about it. The scientists, they are finding the best nutrient either by intercropping or through different types of integrated crop management system, that how one crop can be grown along with another crop, which can strengthen the soil nutrient by adding enough nitrogen, by adding phosphorus and other nutrient to the soil, and the soil may be good in health. Now the organic farming is another issue which is coming up throughout the country. For organic farming, there are different sectors of farmers which are converting their soil into an organic soil. Now for organic soil, they require 7 years time at least, because the soil should be absolutely free from the effect of pesticide, herbicide or chemical fertilizer. So they need to plow the soil simultaneously and add the organic manure into it. They make the soil suitable for developing organic crops. And these organic crops, they are important for human health because they are pesticide free and herbicide free, and they have got better crop production. So the countrywide, the organic farming is becoming popular, though the production cost is coming up very high as compared to the routine crop, but the people, they are adopting the products coming out of organic farming. The government has started producing soil health card through different nodal agencies, because the farmer, they need to test their soil or the soil of their field, whether this soil is suitable for this particular crop or not, and the soil is tested in the soil testing laboratories of different agriculture universities. So these soil testing laboratories, they isolate and identify different type of soil products and soil nutrients, and on the basis of which the soil cards are issued to the farmers, telling them that this type of soil is good enough for this particular type of crop or for growing this type of crop. So the farmers, they are being educated in order to grow better crops as per their soil health card. Reducing post-harvest losses is a very important issue, as I told in the beginning, that our post-harvest losses means, suppose wheat is harvested, then the remaining remains of the wheat plant, they are just burnt or they are just stored somewhere else in order to decay. So the burning is also not an issue because it is adding so much of pollutants to the environment. Likewise, different types of post-harvest products, after harvesting sugarcane, after harvesting rice, after harvesting barsim and other crops, different types of losses can be seen. So alternative biotechnological methods are being used to recycle them and to make different types of useful products out of these post-harvest products, which are directly not used and they are ultimately lost. So these lost post-harvest products are being recycled and being utilized to develop some nutritious products. Value addition through food processing and advanced technologies is a focused area, and the people, they are moving towards the production of different types of food products, like different types of post-harvest products. They are being converted into the powdered products, and these powdered products are being provided to different industries for their successive use. And for these purposes, different advanced technologies which are popular world over are being adopted, and the scientific collaborations are being done. Reform in agriculture marketing through online trading is also a very important issue, because the farmers through online trading will be able to get the best price of their crop, and they will not become a victim of different mediocres. So our Honorable Prime Minister has also focused on the online trading of agriculture products by the farmers themselves or by the self-help group developed by the farmers. For risk, security and assistance, our Honorable Prime Minister has also assured the farmers that through Prime Minister Crop Insurance Scheme PMFBY, the farmers, they can get their crop insured at a very nominal price, and after the insurance, if any natural disaster happen or if they are not getting better crop production out of their all measures, then they will get compensation, and the condition of farmer suicide will not happen again in India. So the risk of developing some alternative crops, the risk of developing some non-conventional crops has always kept the farmer afraid of losses. So under this scheme, the risk has been covered. The farmers, they have been provided proper security, not to their crop, but to their family members and to the persons who are engaged in agriculture practices, and different types of assistance for getting better crop production is being given to the farmers through PMFBY. Then allied activities like horticulture, dairy, poultry, beekeeping, fisheries, white revolution, blue revolution, agroforestry, integrated farming, and backyard poultry development has also been focused. Now in horticulture, much focus has been given to hydroponics, aeroponics, production of important ornamental crops, production of different types of crops which are having good market in the society. Dairy is also an important issue which will lead us to white revolution, development of better lactating animals by using biotechnological techniques, by improving animal health, by keeping the animals away from different types of epidemic diseases and endemic diseases, by keeping animals healthy so that their per animal production of uh, milk and other livestock can be increased. Beside this, the poultry is an important issue, that within a stipulated time we can get better biomass out of poultry, and for these biotechnological practices, biotechnological tools are being used, and different institutes like Central Avian Research Institutes at Bhatnagar is being devoted for the poultry development, for the development of different types of crops. Likewise, in India, for different animals, region-wise, different centers have been established by Indian Council of Agriculture Research, which are looking into the development and better animal production, better poultry production, better livestock production, better milk production throughout the country. Fisheries, there are devoted institutes for fisheries which are focused on the development of good biomass containing fishes and better quality fishes with better nutrients in them. Then white revolution, blue revolution, and agroforestry, these are the things which are being addressed or which have been included in 7-point formula by the Prime Minister. Now agroforestry, because with the population explosion, the human beings population and the overall population in India has crossed 125 billion, and it is going to increase further in the times to come. So we need to focus more on agroforestry by growing more and more useful plants by growing more plants which can utilize more carbon dioxide and can give more oxygen to the environment, so that the population, they do not feel suffocated and enough environmental purity can be developed. Integrated farming is also an issue which the farmers are being educated about, because growing one crop will not work. So unless and until they develop two or three alternate crop or small herbaceous crops along with their major crops, they will be able to earn their livelihood, and they will be able to develop a large number of crops at one time. So actually for sugarcane, see for example, the farmer, they grow once and ultimately they harvest it once in a year, and they are totally dependent on it. If the crop is lost or if there are losses, then their entire 1 year income is gone. So the farmer, they have been asked, they have been suggested to go for integrated farming by focusing more on some alternative crops which can be grown with the major crop system, and they can get better livelihood. The backyard poultry development is useful for those places where the people are having enough space and they can utilize their backyard in their houses for developing small poultry farms, and they will become self-sustainable for the egg and for the livestock, and they will be having their earning also if that is produced more than their. Now the points which have been raised by Honorable Prime Minister, they can be seen in the pictures in the slide. The drip irrigation system has been introduced in many areas where the particular plant is being provided water through drip, and the water is not being wasted due to the availability of less water resources. Organic farming is also, as I told you, is an important point which is being adopted or which has been adopted by the farmers by and large, and they are developing organic crops. The improved seeds by using various tools, by using various techniques are being developed. The reduction of post-harvest losses by CFET, Ludhiana and other institutes is being practiced. You can see in the market a large number of fruits and vegetables are wasted, and in the kitchen as such, we had been wasting large amount of vegetable waste and large amount of fruit waste. So these waste, they can be utilized. There are scientists and persons who are trying to convert these vegetable waste and food waste into energy, and they are also trying to convert it into biomanure which can be utilized in kitchen garden and cannot be thrown outside for waste. Now, the government of India under Ministry of Food Processing Industries has established Pradhan Mantri Kisan Sampada Yojana, which is a mega scheme for augmenting food processing capacity through technology infusion and upgradation. White Revolution in India, for which Varghese Kurian is known as the milkman of India or the father of Indian dairy, he is devoting more time to develop more milk producing cattle and buffaloes, so that the India can become self-sustainable for milk, and you can see that the white revolution is not far away. Shall be developing better milk and large amount of milk as per our requirement. Thank you very much for the patient hearing. Thank you.